excited to hear this talk. Jeff Fesler is going to tell us about teaching programming to non-programmers. Give it up for Jeff.
Sometimes it's easier to just put it in your phone.
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Hi. Wow, I'm really nervous. So this is teaching software development for engineers. Engineers typically aren't teachers. They know how to engineer. So there's a couple of gotchas that you have to look out for when you're doing mentoring, especially any kind of structured mentoring or structured teaching, and especially if you're teaching people who have never programmed before at all, which there's a shortage of talent out there, and one of the best ways to get it is grab people that want to code from your own workforce. Go out there and find who is interested in doing this. So, nope. There we go. So, this quick vanity card. My name's Jeff Fesler, by the way. It's been said several times. Thank you, Corey. Find me on Twitter at FeslerJ. So, typically when we're teaching programming, one of the first things that's asked is, what language do we use? It's a trap. This always ends up going down these paths of navel gazing and these should we do this and should we do that? Liskov made a pretty good point that usually the first language that people get taught is the language that ends up going into production. So a lot of languages that were really heavy in use in academia end up going into production just a couple of years later. So what language to use? Well, we want it to go into production. We want it to create curiosity. We want to have a multitude of examples and tutorials because we don't want, because we want to have a large set of examples for someone to go and look for. Available and easy to use tooling, something that creates something fun and fairly quickly to satiate curiosity, which is very important. So it depends, but really in our environment, it's C#. So again, if you're teaching something structured, start with a plan. These people are counting on you to teach them. So start with a plan that has objectives. Make sure the objectives are measurable. Do this before you start teaching. And communicate the objectives more than once, because they don't necessarily stick the first time. So always make sure you're communicating your objectives more than once. And be willing to change your plan. Make it composable, like talks or software. Be able to move things out and put things back in. But have a plan. So I think John Skeet's given a talk Friday on the meaning behind software development. It's really good. He did it earlier at Gang, where he talks about where it's art and engineering and craftsmanship, and I like it. I really like this talk. I really like the exposition about it. But what we're really doing is we're writing instructions. We're following a recipe. And that's how when you're communicating that to people who have never coded before, you want to make sure that they know that this isn't magic. That really, we're teaching we're putting a general system in place, and we're saying, this is how you talk to this general system. This is how you instruct it. So, going through this, we encountered a couple pitfalls, so I just want to make it aware so we can teach more people to be programmers that aren't programming. So, one of the things you find in C# is there's a lot of boilerplate. There's a lot of things around stuff. There's a lot of syntactic oddities. Some things have been put into the language later on, so getters and setters. That's kind of evolved. Interpolated strings. We have two ways of telling somebody it's an integer. You can say int, or you can say int32. Well, which one do you use? Doesn't matter. That's not intuitive to people. And then the main function is not intuitive. So you start a brand new application, this is what you see. And to most of us, that's a blank page. There's nothing there. But if you are just looking at coding, well, what's that? What does this mean? These are all advanced concepts that are all in the ceremony of enterprise development. And these are not necessarily everything that you want to teach on day one, but this ends up being what's there. We end up having, but you can solve that with LINQ. So I'm almost out of time, so I just want to go through one quick example. The for loop is not intuitive. Everybody might think that it's like, oh, it's just a for loop. You start at the beginning, you go to the first thing in front of the semicolon, but you only go there once. You don't go there ever again. And it doesn't have to be declarative. It's where we usually declare stuff, but you only have to have that second one. And that second one's conditional. But that conditional is what tells it if I need to keep going. And that third one, well, we don't do that one yet. We just go right down the loop into the scope. But it's really just a shortcut for, oh, I'm out. For a while loop, which is really just a shortcut for a conditional to go to. So as I'm out, I'm just going to skip that. The biggest takeaway was personal projects. When curiosity takes over, this really set the example of who in the class did well and who didn't do well, is if they started with a personal project. Because curiosity is the breeding ground of passion. Doing it because you want to have a job, they're not going to learn as well. So repetition, be patient, repetition, always ask questions, repetition. It's really valuable in teaching. Thank you.